So we've been talking about hurt. We've been talking about problems, issues, stuff that goes wrong. See, because we know in life, sometimes stuff just can't go right. Right? We know that we're always going to have problems. We're always going to have issues. We can't just escape them. We might have a good day. We might be without them for a few hours. But somehow or another, all of us have pain and hurt that we like to try and hide away. And some of us like to push it away and forget about it. Others of us like to relish ourselves and walk around, being the victim. But however we handle our hurt, we all hurt. And if we feel like maybe we don't, then, well, wait a few years and then let's talk again, because life just has hurt. And that's just the way it goes. And sometimes this hurt, I want to kind of show you guys something. This hurt can cause us to sometimes even feel maybe somewhat invisible, like no one really notices us, no one really cares, because we feel so much just in ourselves and hurt. And so I want to kind of share something with you, or can I do something? This is an artist, a Chinese artist named, I'm going to get this wrong, Liu Bolin, I don't know. Anyways, this is him. This is no special effects, no altering of this photo. This is a Chinese artist who paints himself to fit in with his surroundings. There's one. There's another. They get better as we go. There's another one. Might have to stop at some of these just to make sure they can find him. See him there in the poster?
It's the worst one.
Pretty incredible.
Whoa.
Wait, whoa.
Here he is.
You see him?
I
see him. Do I need to point him out? That I put myself on the table and kind of let you know where I was at, what my hurt is. And there's several things I could point out, but I kind of want to give you a little bit of my story. All right. So here's kind of how it starts. See, growing up, first of all, I was in a pretty sheltered Christian home, meaning, it was all Christian music. My parents didn't really expose me to a lot of things. I didn't really see a lot of things. I was in public school as I started growing up, but I wasn't really exposed to much. And from the start, kind of growing up, I don't know if you guys here feel this, but there's this overwhelming pressure to be a certain type of guy growing up. And at least how I felt in my perception of things was kind of the manly guy. And I feel like kind of from the start I didn't fit in because I actually had these things called feelings, right? I mean, a lot of guys don't try and show feelings or emotions. And I was always kind of a person, I had feelings, I cared about people. And let me just give you a picture. Even to this day, and this is a little, I don't like to share this with too many people because a lot of people don't understand this, and you probably won't either, but I'm being vulnerable, and here it is. I like chick flicks. Okay? I love chick flicks. And those darn movie producers not only make a good moment of like something happening, then they add music to it, and it makes it even worse. And it's not just the fact that it's a bunch of chick flicks and they're doing all these love stories. Like, I could care less about the love stories. I don't believe that it's just like this happily ever after. I believe love takes work, love takes caring. I believe some of that's just Hollywood fluff. But see, what really gets me in movies, whether it's some stupid Lifetime movie, whether it's a movie about pets, whether it's Biggest Loser, whatever, it's that moment when something changes in someone's life. And forever, someone's had a moment, an aha moment. They've gotten something. Pursuit of Happiness was a constant flow of tears, right? Because this guy just, develops this whole story. I mean, I just get caught up in seeing people because I've always kind of grown up with this caring. I'm kind of a fix-it person. I love seeing this restoration. So, restoration. I need to talk and get it all out. And so that's kind of how I grew up. And I don't know if you guys can relate with that here. Girls, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about because you don't know this whole guy world that we live in of trying to act like we have the least amount of emotion and can punch the guy the hardest. I just wasn't about that. And see, I kind of grew up and it was fine. It was fine, maybe until about middle school. And I had kind of this insecurity, right? Because I'm feeling like, well, I have feelings, but I'm supposed to act like I don't have feelings. I'm supposed to try and fit into this bubble. And so I became fairly insecure. And I got into middle schools, and I've shared with you some of my middle school experience, right? I try and buy some cool pants, and I get called a poser, and I try and make friends, and they just make fun of me, and I'm like, that's not really a friend. That's kind of someone that's mean. And friendships I make, people kind of move on from, and I just feel kind of left out. And see, as this kind of happens, at least in my life, it became a ticking time bomb to high school. And see, as I kind of got into high school, I maybe the end of even junior high, I started to understand that girls like a guy with a good smile. That girls like a guy with fairly interesting eyes, which I've always been told that I have. I don't really see it necessarily, but I've been told these things. Like, I started to learn about this whole system that, well, if guys are kind of going to be doing their macho thing over here, well, girls are kind of interesting and they give me some attention. Right? And see, what I did, and I think many of you can relate to this if you think hard enough about it, is I took insecurity and I found something that I could be confident and secure in. I took my insecurity of feeling like I'm something that I'm not supposed to be and put it in something that I knew I could try and kind of do. And so I'd find girls that I could kind of, get attention from, and I'd find, maybe we were just friends, maybe whatever. Maybe we dated and held hands around, lunchtime. You did it.
Not me.
Tony didn't do it?
I guarantee you I did not do that.
Okay. Middle school. But anyways, and so see, as this progressed, this thing, I never took care of it. It wasn't something that anybody ever noticed, but I started to put a lot of my worth into getting attention from girls. And see, so it's no wonder that the reaction of that is doing something that I'm not supposed to do. It's no reaction that one day, while I'm dating a girl for after a year, that she asks me if I will, and I say yes. And from then on, something that was supposed to be saved for my wife, for a purpose, was destroyed because I had put security where it wasn't supposed to be put. And I share that with you because I think that's the path of hurt. We store something up and we try and find our worth in something else. And maybe for you it's a little bit different. Maybe it's getting stabbed in the back. Maybe it's other things. And as I've told you, this time bomb didn't really stop there. In college, my grandparents died very close apart in my freshman year, which continued to spiral because then I'm going, an anchor of my life is gone. I'm trying to trust in girls. They're rejecting me. And it just spins out of control because it was where my security and my confidence and my trust was never supposed to be. And I don't know how you relate to that. Many of you came from a very different upbringing than I did. It was a year before Vicki and I started dating that, and I hope it's okay that I share this, she thought she had kind of those parents that were just going to stay together for the long haul. And she actually, I think it was a year before it happened, she thought, that's weird, my parents would never get a divorce. And then she's finding out the news that her parents are getting a divorce at the age of, it was 21, right? And then we met a year later and kind of came together, and through our relationship, I've now felt like I've kind of come to a place where I feel like I have confidence in the right things, confidence in the right place, and I believe that kind of she's worked things through, and that's kind of what relationships and marriage and now family does. And especially God in that whole process. But that's kind of what helped me get restored back in the way. But see, we all have that stuff. We all have those things that hurt. And see, I want to make this statement very clear to you guys that many of you will look at people and ask the question, whether out loud or just in your head, why, how, let me rephrase that, how could those people do those things? Whatever it may be, I can't believe that person would do that. And I can tell you, maybe there's situations where people just love doing that stuff, but I believe that you could trace it all back to hurt in their life. See, so it's not really, I'm not saying they didn't sin, they didn't do stuff wrong, they didn't make a mistake, but all of it is a reaction to what's going on the inside. You guys see that? And see, so that's why it becomes our job in this whole process to reach out to people that hurt. But see, in order to do that, we have to identify the hurt and the pain that we are dragging around with. We're dragging around with along with us. That we're carrying everywhere. Our burden, our thing. And so here's what I want to do to kind of start us out in this whole thing. I think it's very important that we do our best. And you can still be thinking, I asked you last week kind of think how you've been hurt and how maybe you've hurt others. But I want to just focus on the first one. What is the hurt that you're carrying around? And as I'm kind of explaining this a little further, Rachel's going to pass around a sheet of paper too. She didn't know I was doing that. There's some pens in the back. There's markers for someone else. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about what is the hurt of my life. I don't want you to write me an essay. I don't want a short story. I definitely don't want you to write a joke on that paper. What I want you to write is I want you to think about what the hurt is in your life. Identify it. Maybe it's a word. Maybe it's a phrase. Maybe it's a sentence. Maybe it'd be sad, but maybe it's a person's name. But I'd prefer you not to put that on that paper. Save that for later. Do the word, phrase, or sentence. I'd rather not see us putting each other's name on this paper if that be the case. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a couple minutes by yourself. If you need to kind of maybe head over to the couches or find a little corner, you're going to have a couple minutes. And I want you to write down that word, that phrase, that sentence about what the hurt is in your life. If there's multiple things, maybe just pick one or two, okay? And show them, and here's what you're going to do. You're going to fold that piece of paper in half when you're done, and Rachel's going to be standing up here. Okay? Don't put your name on the paper, don't anything. We're not going to know that it's you, but here's what we're going to do. We are going to write that on our little board here, and we're kind of going to do a little demonstration thing. Again, we're not going to know who's who, so maybe keep that in mind when you're writing down your word. Don't say, McKenna thinks such, or Shannon is hurt by such. Just put generalized. Do you have a question?
Yes, I'm confused. What do we write?
The hurt. What hurt is in your life?
So, like,
Who have you been hurt by? What? Maybe, let me explain this to you guys. Maybe it's something that you feel about yourself. Maybe you're the one that ends up hurting yourself. By maybe feeling like you're insecure, like you don't, like kind of like my story, like you don't fit in. But maybe it's more, friends that have betrayed you, trust that's been broken. Maybe it's home life. Maybe it kind of go on and on. So it could be something that you've decided to do that's led you down a path of kind of being depressed and sad and whatever. So I just want you to think about that and write that down. When you're ready, Rachel's going to be up here and write it on the board.
We'll be able to read.
Psalm, not right now, but you're going to read Psalm 34:18. Another volunteer. You're going to read just 18. You're going to read Psalm 147, verse 3.
I can't read.
Another volunteer.
Garrett, I can't
Psalm
read anymore.
34:18. Another volunteer. I almost called you Matt because I'm going to tell you to pass it on to Matthew to read. Matthew 11:28 through 30. And then I need one more. Jeremiah 29:11 and 12, which you probably have memorized.
Can I have my pen back?
Jeremiah what?
Jeremiah 29:11 and 12.
You did, and then I was like,
Okay, so listen up, guys. So see, you guys wrote these things on this paper, and see, here's one thing that I think is very important. Some of you might have written that down and been like, man, why are we doing this? Why are we being all emo and depressing at youth group? Like I thought this was about like flowers and happy times and hippies and I don't know what you thought about it, but maybe what I'm saying is maybe you're the type of person that doesn't want to think about their hurt, welcome, and their pain and what you're going through. But here's what I want to tell you. See, you can try and forget your pain, but you won't. You can try and forget your hurt, but you won't. That time that you got rejected, that time that your best friend stole your girlfriend, that time that your parents were yelling at you.
Well, you kicked them.